Good morning. It's a pleasure today to welcome Steve O'Brien to our ongoing seminar series and webinar series for the charitable pay raise. And it's a special pleasure today for multiple reasons to have Steve O'Brien join us as a fellow Colgate grad and as a friend and as a volunteer and on our board of advisors. Steve has been overseeing and commenting and creating and guiding for the last several years. And it's great to have you here today, Steve. Thank you for making time.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks for having
me. Steve, why don't you give our audience of advisors and charities today a little bit of your background since leaving that wonderful Mecca of the North, Colgate?
After leaving the snow at Colgate, I joined the Navy, became a F18 pilot, went to Top Gun, actually got to be instructor there as well, left the Navy, still continued in the reserves as an F18 pilot and such, and then went to work for Lockheed Martin, L3 Harris, and Northrop Grumman. As a senior executive and corporate officer at all those companies. So it's been a interesting ride, and even continued flying for a certain amount after that in the Navy Reserves, and got activated and flew again. But that's my career in a nutshell over time.
Well, that's a pretty big nutshell, Steve. And while we're at it, give us a little bit about your family and where they are right now.
I have two kids in college, one at Notre Dame, one at Wake Forest, and I have one who's a senior in high school at Gonzaga in downtown Washington, D.C., and a lovely bride at home who's waiting for her last to go to college.
That's absolutely awesome. And I've had the pleasure of getting to know that lovely bride, Katie, and I want to use that as a segue into talking a little bit about your philosophy and Katie's philosophy on philanthropy.
Well, we've been fortunate, like so many other people, and we've been lucky enough and blessed enough to have the finances that allows us to do philanthropy. I'd say the kids also have that gene. They've gone to schools like my youngest now at Gonzaga, where service is a big part of what they do. I don't think it's not only a graduation requirement for them, but I think it's an outlook on life that a lot of the Gonzaga graduates of that high school and continues on in Notre Dame and Wake Forest for all of them. So it's a big part of what we do and how we do it, and we use all the tools available to be a part of philanthropy and giving back, not only today, but how you view it of giving back for the future and for the years ahead. So it's something we've all done, and our family has been a big part of it, and not only the finances we have, but the time.
That's excellent. So it sounds like it's your time, your treasure, and your talent, all of the above.
I won't kid you though. For a lot of us, especially in corporate America and in the Navy, there hasn't been as much time as we've wanted, and you're focused on your career. In doing that, you give back what you can, but it's that outlook of giving back later on and having a plan to do that. I think that's important to my wife and I and our family going forward.
What advice would you give other leaders, whether in business or in other professions, about creating that space and time to give back? Because it is hard, especially when you're balancing all the responsibilities of family and profession.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I can only speak for myself, and it's hard to carve out time, career, and to be able to do that unconditionally. I have been in all these jobs ahead of international for a large corporation, so that puts me on seat 3J American or United Airlines quite a bit, and that to try to give back your time gets pretty difficult when you have your family in there. So, at least for me, it's having a long-term plan to give back and what you want to do. That, I think I don't want to call it the short term, but there are certain times I've had, and I'm sure many people are in the same boat, where you don't necessarily have the ability to commit your time early on in your career or the part of your career because you're focused on family, you're focused on career and other things. But it's the ability to have a plan, I think, to give back later on to I guess recognize the things you want to support and give back to in the later parts of your life that may have not been entirely possible in the early portions of it, at least for me.
I think it's a great response. And I think that that's a big part of what the charitable pay raise tries to accomplish, is bringing together that ability to help someone optimize what they've achieved and put together their wherewithal when it comes to looking into their retirement years. But at the same time, supporting the charitable causes that they believe in, both during the tail end, so to speak, perhaps of their career, and at the same time being able to give a legacy defining gift. I know that you're involved in a couple of charities, and so is Katie right now. Feel free to share a little bit about those.
Well, my wife is in terms of a called Westwood Cares program that she's a big part of. There, she's also in the Young Men's Service League, where she's the president of the chapter in the Washington D.C. area. So, these are things that she likes being a part of, and it really drives time of hers and service, and it makes her feel, I think, or the ability to give back has been just a great option. We here at where I work currently, the team is part of the Ronald McDonald House, and my team gives back in that. And I actually, may not look at, but I can overlook the large Inova hospital complex here. We go over there to the Ronald McDonald House, we cook meals and things like that. It's a fantastic thing to do, and that's giving our time, but we're only able to do it as a team once a month. But the charitable trust for me as a corporate person, we're blessed, and I'm not alone. As you accumulate really stocks and they become highly appreciated assets, I think what Bill, you've been able to do with the charitable pay raise is a great way to meet a lot of goals at the same time, to give back, to take these highly appreciated assets and make the most out of them in a tax deferred status. At the same time, making time and I guess ability to spend time with family in a way that satisfies a number of different capabilities or desires that people have in that stage of life.
Thank you, Steve. That's exactly what we've aimed for. Thus the tagline, better retirement, lasting legacy. At the charitable pay raise, one of the things that we really are excited about is giving people who heretofore may not have thought they had the opportunity to really give a legacy defining gift through the process, now have that capability. And as a financial advisor, it's an entirely different conversation when you walk in the room and you're not talking about, this stock versus that stock or this or that. You're talking about whose lives do you really want to touch now and in the future? What is that stamp that you're going to put on the world bearing the name of your family that's going to say something and hopefully make this a better place down the road? And that is just a fantastic and wonderful conversation. And we're reaching out, as you're well aware, Steve, to not the Bill Gates and the Warren Buffetts of the world, but we're hitting a lot of successful people who, like many, are worried about, hey, I want to give this $1 million but I'm concerned that if my spouse lives to be 113, our resources going to make it there to support them all the way to the finish line. And that's a very justifiable and understandable concern. But through this method, we can do both. And that's really, really exciting. In terms of your corporate, you mentioned Ronald McDonald House, which is great. And I know you've been on the board of is it a Navy Flight Museum?
Yeah, the Naval Aviation Museum in Pensacola,
Naval
Florida, which is
Aviation
a great,
Museum.
great place, by the way, very large, as well as the Association of Naval Aviation. So that's all.
No, these are great and obviously very, very important causes. And obviously what Katie's doing with Westwood Cares and her mission, the same way. And then you mentioned also Gonzaga, which Gonzaga has been such an amazing institution and part of Washington, D.C. forever. And the legacy of the men it produces is practically unequaled around the country. So that's something also to be super proud of. From where you sit, and obviously at this point in your career, where do you see the next generation perhaps focusing their philanthropic needs? And when I say next generation, I'm really thinking of the workforce following in your wake.
Well, I will tell you, and I think everybody has it. They are very socially aware, charitable aware, service aware, at least in my mind. They even more so than my generation. And as they go to college, as they even go to high school, it's a big part of what they do. And at least for me, and having 3 kids and wanting them to mine are still relatively young, or I like to think I'm trying to still set them on the right path, or set the right example of what they should be focused on, and not this type of program. I think is able to preserve the best of both worlds, which is come into a place to support the charitable things that we want to support the kids and quite frankly for me to continue to have time with my family as they have their own families, hopefully a little way, fine, but at some point. So just trying to capture or thread that needle of all, and I'm sure many people are in the same situation. You want to support charity, but you want to again preserve that time with family and the resources to have that relationship with your kids going forward.
Great points. And I think you bring up that point, and there does seem to be a synergy. And when it occurs, it makes all of them work better. You get that balance. There's a certain godliness and just that element of the world seems to gel when people find the ability to be present for their families, enjoying their profession and their work life, and then helping the next generation, especially your loved ones, inherit those philosophies, but also become unique individual people as they move forward and support their own choices of charities and nonprofit causes. And I think the charitable pay raise, one of the fun things there is, as this business grows, it's been interesting to see where the clients focused their dollars and those nonprofits and charitable causes that they believe in, and it covers the entire fruited plain, which is really fun. And everybody's got their own history and and how it plays into the decisions they make about that. One of the nice things about the charitable pay raise is it's not just for the C-suite. It also is for what we call the everyman. From basically anybody who's got appreciated assets, employer stock in their retirement plan, or what we call an overfunded IRA, something that's quite sizable that might be problematic actually from a tax standpoint, who we can help both improve their own stance financially while helping charity in the form of a permanent planned gift and then a legacy defining bequest at the finish line. With regard to your career aspirations and what you see ahead, you mentioned where you are right now, and I believe that's relatively new, is it not?
Yeah, I just took a job as a corporate officer with one of a large aerospace and defense company, and you know, the obviously I'm heads down working, just as I'm sure all the shareholders of this company would want me to be, again, it's going to delay the decisions on some of these things, but it as you said to me, Bill, in the past, is just, it allows you, or what the charitable pay raise does, allows you to run the numbers at different points in a scenario and see what's best for every individual as they do it. And for me, this is a great opportunity. It's a unique opportunity. It's still a lot of fun. I still enjoy it. Working with the team, especially as my son, everybody's ready to go to college. We'll have an empty house. So,
anybody going to follow you in the aerospace?
I don't think so. I did get a few nibbles as they all watched Top Gun Maverick, but that was about it. Yeah. Even that one.
Well, God bless you and your industry for all you do. And Steve, thank you for taking time out today to spend with us. It's been a pleasure. As we continue to build this series, we're especially appreciative of you spending time with our board. It's been a pleasure to have a couple of other board members step up and share some time and their perspectives on the charitable pay raise, especially for those who are athletes who are right now enjoying watching the U.S. women's soccer team compete abroad and have affiliations with nonprofits supporting their efforts, which is kind of fun. But at any rate, we thank you for your time today, Steve, and we look forward to seeing you in the future, and all good things. Thanks,
Bill. Thanks,
Take care.
Take care now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.